Welcome back to the Revamp Podcast. Today, second time guest, right?
Second time.
You were one of the early Revamp Podcast guests.
Well, there's something to live up to here because the sequels are never as good as the originals. So we're going to see what we can do here.
Ooh, I think we're going to break that.
Okay, yeah.
We're going to break that today. So Chris McGee, real estate investor, wholesaler, flipper, real estate gangster.
I like that.
Real estate gangster.
I do appreciate the shirt that you're wearing because I have the same exact shirt and I should have wore it today.
It's so funny. So I pulled it out of my closet this morning and I didn't even know. I just thought it was a black t-shirt. So my wife just bought it for me, and I go to the gym in the morning and I bring a change of clothes here and I shower when I get to the office. So I put it on and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I said to my wife, I'm like, I don't really know how I feel about it because I have a really high EQ and I understand other people's emotions really well. However, I also think that generally, here we go, I'm going to get flagged already. I think that generally people are pussies, though.
I agree.
So
this is probably the reason I got the shirt as a gift.
I respect people's feelings, but I think that they put too much emphasis on their own feelings. Like, man up.
Yeah. But doesn't it feel like that's how society is now?
Yeah.
Like we almost have to take this 180 and get back to being, human again?
Very true.
Yeah, so
very true.
So
instead, we'll talk about your shirt because that's even better.
Yeah, this is a shirt that we actually got at our mastermind meeting, and I love it.
Conquer every obstacle.
Conquer every obstacle, because isn't that we do that day in and day out?
Dude, it's so funny how
the message is really cool.
So many people that when they start a business or they start on their entrepreneurial journey, like it's so common to see the guy that has no employees just filed his LLC yesterday, and he gets business cards made that says CEO on it. Yeah. And people don't realize that like being a CEO in a lot of ways sucks.
It really does. But what I like about the message underneath on this T-shirt specifically is probably to the point you're making is CEO, the term CEO or CFO, we like throwing them around.
Yeah.
But it can come with a complex too.
Of course.
This completely eliminates the complex to me.
Yep.
Like this is what we're doing. You can call me whatever you want. But there's obstacles every day. We're solving problems. That is what our day is.
Yeah, and you have to be committed to that and love it because that's all that we do. Like I just heard somebody give the greatest definition of it on a podcast in the last few weeks, and it was like, as a CEO at the helm of this ship, what you're doing all day, every day, because we put most of the time the best and brightest people that we can find into a position so they can excel at that role.
Sure.
And what we end up doing is solving all the problems that the best and brightest can't figure out. That's where all the shit comes to us, and we got to figure that out.
Sometimes. I'll say yes and no. I think some of that is our fault.
Also fair.
Because then you do, it's your baby, so you literally turn into a babysitter. And sometimes when you don't have to, I'm guilty of it. This is why I'm saying it, right? Like, you put people in those positions because you think they're going to do a great job, and then you spend the next 3 months standing over their shoulder, analyzing that job on a minute-to-minute basis. I've been guilty of it, getting better at it, but it's something that has really hindered the growth of your employees, which you really isn't your intention, but I think just naturally happens because of all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put in to get you to this spot. You don't want to lose that.
Yep.
Now, I think a mindset growth for me is to expect a little bit of setback every time you bring somebody in. Yeah, you have to. And that was really tough to get over. I mean, what are we, 7.5 years into the business now, and I'm just getting that?
Yeah, yeah.
After how many cyclical employees have come and gone. But, yeah, that was definitely something that was tough to get over.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you ever do really get over it. You come to accept it more, but it's like, yeah, I'm with you, dude. I fully understand. And before I bring anyone in today, it's like I have to be okay with slowing down for the next 3 months to where we're even going to be at a break even in terms of output of results as a result of bringing that person in.
Right. And early on, which it's not happening now because we have some pretty good, not perfect, but systems and processes in place. What I noticed early on is when we brought people in, it was bringing them into a broken system where we're trying to figure it out together. Like, hey, we really have never had anybody in this spot before. We've kind of just done it ourselves and we were winging it. So now that we have you here, let's develop this system and process when really you might have been bringing somebody in that was brand new.
Yeah.
That didn't really have the position to give you input for that new system and process. So you're really putting them into a broken system.
Yep.
And then that hinders your growth and their growth. So I feel like that's a disservice.
Fair,
to
but
some
I feel
people.
like that's inevitable. That's how everything is always going to start. It's always going to be messy. It's going to be sloppy, right?
I think so. I guess you can go 50-50 on this, because now if you do have a system that is proven and you have people have gone through it, including yourself, and it's successful consistently, now you get to put the next person into that system and say, this is how it's done, not let's figure it out.
Fair, but I think you have to remove yourself or any other partners or anything from the equation entirely, because you kind of don't count, right? Like
Correct.
if you're going to say, oh, well, I followed this process and this system and using this software before, so somebody else that I plug into that role should be able to do this and be successful. That's a skewed test also.
It is. But guilty of thinking that way, because that's the way my brain
Oh,
thinks.
dude, 100%, 100%.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. No, you're right. But to a degree, I should say to a degree. What has I heard somebody say in the past, that if you want somebody to come in and at least do 75% of what you can do, and you're on a good path.
Yep.
But we expect 100%.
Of course we do. Of course we do. So let's take it back a step. So wholesaling, mostly Chester County? Is that no? Because you're doing some national stuff also, right?
We were doing a lot of national, and as we got our data back in, realizing where we're spending our money, where we're getting our contracts versus our leads, because obviously those are two different things. We scaled that back to 5 states. And right now I think we've scaled that back even further to 3, trying to bring it back home again. It's funny, this is a whole cyclical thing for me. Wanted to go national because it's cheaper, but is it?
Right.
We know this location. I would call it Southeast Pennsylvania minus Philly. That's where we're doing
Fair.
business.
Okay. I like that.
But our home base, I would say, is, you're right, Chester County is where we live and where we operate out of. Berks County, Lancaster, and Montgomery is probably our top 4.
Got it.
Wholesaling, that's for flipping and wholesaling. For wholesaling purposes, we would expand that out a little bit more. Delaware County, we do some wholesales, which is in your backyard.
Yes,
right?
it is.
Schuylkill County, we've done a lot of wholesales.
We go and take a look at them for you.
Yeah,
there you
go. There you go. That's right. That's right. This is what we do. We help each other, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So we've tried to bring a large portion of that back. Our marketing emphasis right now is back in those 4 to 6 counties.
Okay.
But we will do. What are the other 2 states we're in? I'm asking you. North Carolina is one of them, and not the state of Florida, but certain parts of Florida.
Okay. Gotcha. So, because I know for a while, like you were buying leads from the pay-per-lead services, and like you said, they're cheaper when you do it that way because you're accepting leads from everywhere. So, is there a way to kind of dial in on specific states and still get those cheap leads from pay-per-lead providers?
There is. We use 3 providers right now that we fish leads out of, and we pair our decisions on what we're marketing to on both sides. So we used to just look at volume of leads coming in, but now that we're predominantly wholesaling, we want to make sure that there's a buyer at the other end of that if it's not a market that we're not super strong in.
Got it.
So we do use, and we spoke about this last time I was on, we use Investor Lift for our dispo as a tool. It's not a magical thing that's going to sell your deals. It's a tool, but it's a good tool for us. So what we do in there is there's graphs and data within the system that show, I think it's by quarter. They break down by quarter, whether you want to look at states or cities or regions, where the volume of purchases through the Investor Lift system have taken place.
Okay.
So if we're looking in states that we like to work in, we'll look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida. And then in Pennsylvania, we still stick to our region. In North Carolina and Florida, we'll look for the top 3 or 4 counties that have sold through Investor Lift. And then we'll pair that up to what we're finding on the pay-per-lead sites.
Got it.
And that's where we shop for the quarter. So we change that quarter over quarter. And that's been working out well for us, because now our average going into a new market is tough to begin with. Mm-hmm. But using the tool to our advantage, has helped us tremendously, because when we went into a new market without doing that, we would buy a lead, get it under contract, and in some cases it would take 3.5 weeks to find a buyer for it, because if we didn't have a strong enough list there, we were doing, the old school methods of picking up the phone and calling Zillow agents and anything we could use, any tool or program we could use to get that buyer in that local. And start building a list from there. Now, when we have a lot of activity in the area, we have access to pull from that activity on day one through the system.
Got it.
And I guess that probably depends on what level of investor lift you're at, but the level we're at allows us to go pull that data. So
how many levels are there?
I think there's 4.
Okay.
I think there was 3 when we started. I think there's 4 now.
Okay.
We're on the 2nd level, which opens up a lot of information for buyers that have bought local to your property.
Got it.
So we're able to go in day one and not only market the property, but maybe even pull a list or call through the system. We're calling people that are actively buying in the areas, and that's turned our dispo time down from probably an average of 2.5 weeks, I would say, to maybe a week now.
Okay.
So we're finding the buyers that are actually buying there, and they're making offers.
Interesting.
So using those tools together has helped us.
It's what it's all about, man. It's finding the tools that makes not only possible, but more efficient. Right?
Yeah, and that took a long time to figure it out. And, we pay a good bit of money to be in that program and use probably 10% of the tools available to us, because it was just the stuff that pops up on your dashboard and we press go, go, go. But we don't see all the background stuff, which is really where our money's being made. So now that we're doing that, it's showing to be profitable.
That's good. That's good. That's
and
what
quicker.
It's all
we
about.
all want quicker profits.
Of course we do. Yeah, I gotta say, man, like in the last few months, and we're talking now some retail like flips that we're putting on the market and even wholesale deals. It's been weird. Like it's taking longer to sell things, wholesale or retail. And it's not that we're getting like lowballed but we're shooting for the stars like on our pricing that we're putting stuff out for. It just seems that it's taking longer. Like the last few wholesale deals, it's like no offers for 3 weeks. Then on week 4, we have 4 offers at or above like list price. So, okay, it's still sold and we got our number and everything and we're happy. But I don't know, it's a weird market right now, it seems. You seeing any weird stuff like that?
Yes. And I have a theory that I'm hearing recently, because we're hearing it over and over again. There must have been a window that I missed out on that buyers were just scooping stuff up after, there was a pause when the interest rates went up. We know that. There was whether depending on the area you were in, it was either a small pause or it was a hard stop.
Yeah.
Now that people are getting back into it again, a lot of things we're hearing from our buyers is maybe our pricing is right on this property, but I'm maxed out. I have 10, 12 properties. And until I sell these, can I do any more? Which we started implementing, because we have, I'm going to call it an overflow, but we have lenders that we're not using. So we're creating deals now because we're introducing our lenders to the buyers that do want the properties, but they're maybe maxed out on their lenders. So we're creating opportunities from it, but I'm seeing that over and over again. Where,
Got it.
Hey, I love the property, love the location. How long, this is a question we're getting a lot, how long do you have before you have to close? Because I close my property this day, and I can close on yours the next week. And if it doesn't hit that timeline, they're like, oh man, we missed out.
Makes sense.
So now I want to put the money in their pocket so then they come back to me and buy my property.
Of course. Of course.
Same for you? Are you finding that?
Yeah, man. It's just, I don't know. There's so many things that have happened in the last year. Like I still can't even, and I'm a data guy. Like I'm a numbers nerd with a lot of that stuff and looking at stats and so many things that I just can't make sense of though, I have theories about a lot of things, but I don't know. I don't feel that they're strong enough theories to even go deep down that rabbit hole of talking about, like we talked a little bit before we started that I think this one is true across the board, across the country, that our sellers in this industry are distressed for some reason, right? Maybe it's inheritance, maybe it's divorce, maybe it's whatever, one of the motivating factors.
Yeah.
I've never, until the last year or so, had so many sellers after they go through our normal sales process that are really like nickel and diming us to try to get an extra $1,000 or something out of the sale, or shopping us to 12 other people, All that I can make sense out of that is people are really strapped for cash right now.
Yeah. And I think, and we did speak about this a little bit before, and I think you're right, because that's situation wide, I'll say. Like that's not the person that can maybe take your offer and maybe not and live with it. These are people that are going through foreclosure in some cases. Like we've heard the same thing, and they're just trying to get a couple more bucks out of it, even when time's against them.
Yep.
So, yeah,
well, and I would make that argument because I feel that I've heard that for years from people in foreclosure or pre-foreclosure, whatever you want to call it at that point, where they kind of bury their head in the sand and they're like, oh no, if I don't get my number, I'm not doing anything. I know what I got. And I would probably say that a lot of people in foreclosure just are somewhat unreasonable about pricing of their properties. But now what I'm saying is we're seeing that across all different demographics of sellers that are in some form of distress, maybe not foreclosure, that it's just seemingly from my seat is they're just not realistic. It's like nobody's going to be able to pay you. You're asking for retail on your property that needs $100,000 worth of renovations. You know, it's not realistic.
And maybe we haven't grown out of 2021 yet. I mean, that the market was so crazy that you could put a cardboard box out and make $1 million on it.
It's true.
That's not there anymore, but in some cases, maybe that is mentally.
Yeah. Well, it takes a long time for psychology to sink in and the reality of the market and economic situations for people to digest and make up their mind of what that means to them.
Sure, and it's all perspective too, right? We're doing this 24 hours a day. You're probably analyzing properties while you're sleeping. Some sellers know that their neighbor sold 2 years ago for $50,000 over asking, and now they decided to sell. But the last perspective they have on the market is that sale from 2 years ago, so that could be part of it too. Like we're not out of that yet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not until the next door neighbor over here takes a loss, and they're like, "Uh-oh, we should have sold 2 years ago."
Yep. It's weird, man. I don't know. Where do you think we're going? It's a terrible question because nobody knows, but what's your sense on kind of the climate? What's your overall outlook?
Isn't this a question for November 6th?
Maybe yes, maybe no.
Okay.
I have some theories I'll share about that too, but...
I say that only half jokingly. Maybe not even
I know.
Honestly, to be serious, I think I can speak to our local, where we spent so much time in that market where everything was selling really good and the inventory was low. I still feel like the inventory is still pretty low. Pricing has kind of calmed down a little bit. And the days on market for listed properties are obviously a lot more than they were a couple of years ago. But I think it's not horrible. And like they're not sitting on the market for 60 to 90 days. We're still selling properties in those. Well, I can speak for two counties, Berks and Chester. Like in our immediate area, they're probably moving within 30 to 40 days.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's reasonable.
Yep.
Right. I would love to sell a flip in 3 days every single time I put one up.
Of course.
But I would say it's getting better, especially on the investments we're making, whether it be even novations. That's a good example, right? Novations we're putting on the market anyway. Mm-hmm. Those 5 or 6 months ago, I think, and maybe it was pricing, maybe not, but I think they were sitting on the market a little bit longer than they are now. We're having people walk through a little bit more, but they're taking their time. Yeah. They're not feeling the emergent need to put an offer in. Yep. So there's a relaxed state in the buyer market.
Totally agree. I'm saying the same thing. So without getting political at all, because I don't want to get the whole fucking thing
we can't get deleted.
But I think there's a really strong argument to be made that if Trump gets in, it will be worse for the real estate market and maybe the global economy as well, because I think anybody that has any control or power is going to pull all the stops to make it seem like, well, everything fell apart because he got into office.
Yeah. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I think you're 100% right. We'll leave it there.
But we'll see.
I think you already said the magic word to get this deleted.
Yeah, probably. I know we both have massive following. So if we don't end up with 1 million views within an hour of posting this, we know, right? We know.
Right. You're exactly right.
Now we got a scapegoat. I love it.
You're surfacing some PTSD here because I don't know if you remember back in 2020. I'm on my 3rd Facebook account. So
Are you really?
I've successfully been deleted twice.
Wow, that is skill. What was it for?
Questions surrounding certain things.
Politics, though?
Either politics or what was going on at the time.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is another thing that can get you removed. So I won't even say that out loud.
Yep. Fair.
Okay. Because it has been, I've been deleted.
Well, it's about time.
Yeah.
You're due.
No, maybe it is about time, right? And it's been 3 years since my last deletion.
All right. We'll reel it back in. So you were telling me recently that in addition to all the stuff that you have going on with wholesaling and novations and some of that other fun stuff that we've kind of been immersed in for a long time, you made a recent acquisition outside of the real estate world, huh?
I did indeed. In the virtual space, we ended up with an opportunity, and it wasn't something I was searching for, but we had an opportunity to get involved with a virtual agency, a virtual assistant agency, and honestly, it's a company we've been part of for the better part of 4 or 5 years.
When you say be a part of, you mean you were a client, right?
I started as a client, and then a couple years back, we got involved with the company as a kind of a silent partner on the monetary side. And recently, within the past 6 to 9 months, we started having conversations within the company of where we were headed. And the leadership that was there was not interested in really pursuing the growth of it because there were other opportunities on their plate.
Okay.
So it came down to a decision of, do we want to dissolve this and just say, hey, it was a great ride, or do we want to make something of it? And it wasn't overnight, but it was probably over 2 months of conversations and Zoom meetings and really like digging in, because I didn't really pay 100% attention to the inner workings of it. It was more on the monetary side. We'd get reporting and data and see what's happening on that side of the business, but not really the inner workings of it. And knowing the benefits of having a VA, because we have them ourselves in our business, I was intrigued by the opportunity. So the further I looked into it, I was like, we can make a difference here, because there were some things I didn't agree with. And if I had control of the company at that point and could make the necessary changes that I think would benefit all
overall
parties, that's what leaned me over the edge to say, I want to take a stab at this. So then we took after making that decision, took the next 3 months or so and really tore down a lot of stuff, like a lot of overhead that wasn't needed, and started building from the ground up with some of the strong stuff that was in place. And now I feel like we have a product that I'm proud to put out there, because it's something that we're versed in, because we've used it, and now we can train it on this side. And one of the things, without going too far down a rabbit hole, is probably the most important thing I saw was that any business that came and said, hey, we need a VA, it was like, sure, we'll provide you a VA. But the way I look at it is I think there should be some knowledge behind it, right? So I wanted to really focus on a niche. If you need VAs for your attorney's office and you need them to file paralegal work or, whatever you need them to do, then we can provide that person. We can't really provide support, because we offered like the KPIs and the tracking and some training on the back end too.
Okay.
So I feel it's irresponsible to provide that, even though, yes, I can get you a VA, but it's not something I can support. So it's kind of like you just having an employee anyway.
Through us, and we're kind of staffing. Right. Got it.
So I felt like if we dialed it into real estate, specifically investing, agents, like the arena that we're good at, that we do on a daily basis, we can provide. Because if you need something for cold calling on a sales side, great. We know that.
Yeah. We've done it for years.
Right.
Yep.
If you need transaction help, great. We do that. Everything that pertains to the business that we're in, those are the VAs that we're vetting, because we know how to vet those.
I love that.
And we're putting a stronger product out, I feel.
So for clarification, I'm sure that everybody knows at this point what a VA is, but
I still get asked.
Do you? Okay, so that's why I bring it up,
fair.
because maybe somebody doesn't.
So it stands for virtual assistant, and it's somebody that you can hire into your company to offset some of the tasks that is going to allow you to do something else or somebody else within the company, right? So we have VAs, not just for myself, but we have VAs for people in our company. And I'll give some examples. It's a job that can be done virtually. I mean, that's how they got their name. It's somebody that you're not going to use in person. You're not going to get a VA to come hang your cabinets.
Right. It's an employee that just isn't in person.
Isn't in person, yeah. And there's a number of things that they can do for you. We look at it from the bottom up, like how can we get help down here so that we can do the bigger tasks? Because that's the sexy thing in business anyway, right? Like how do you come into your business every day or into your home office or wherever you're doing business, and you should be figuring out how am I going to make money today and tomorrow. But if I have to fill out an Excel spreadsheet for the next hour and a half, I'm taking that away from myself, and I've just lost that hour and a half of money-making activities. So some of the easier things, bookkeeping, email management, social media management pertaining to your business, list pulling and list scraping, and these types of things are things that VAs do on a regular basis, and they're really, really good at it, better than we can ever be.
Yep.
The first thing, and it's going to be case specific for everybody, like what is it that you really need to get off your plate versus what you want to get off your plate. For me, always realizing that KPIs in our business are probably one of the most important things we can track. And it was one of the things that I always let go first because I could never track it 100% efficiently.
Yep.
So that was one of the first things that I gave to a VA. And now we can actually track them correctly and not have that be on my plate. They do it, and then we're better off for it because then I can make decisions wisely because I have the correct numbers in there.
You have to. Yeah. You have to.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? That's one of the things that you brush aside and say, this is the most important thing. That's cool. I'll get to that later.
Well, yes and no, because it is the most important thing. And like we were talking earlier, you're going to have to create a process around that and then hand it off to someone else so that it gets done every single day and it's repeatable and consistent, and then you can rely on it. When you're only tracking your numbers once every quarter and, oh, well, last quarter I did it this way. Now I have this new side venture that's kind of tied in, but not really. And I did this partnership on this marketing campaign. So I'm looking at that. No, just set a process and that's the way.
Yeah. And when we had the business going simultaneously, flipping and wholesaling there for a bit. And there's a lot of communication, whether it's be through a project or the deals that you're doing, both sides of the business, all communications were coming through, whether it be a CC or spam mail, like everything comes through your email as the owner. You're seeing everything.
Yep.
So it wasn't out of the ordinary to have 600, 700, 800 emails come through in a day. The VA I had as my assistant would do social media stuff for me. So if I was doing videos or things like this, she would post that on social media. She would also take care of my emails. So she's filtering through that stuff. And of those 600, 700, 800, whatever came through in the day, things I needed to respond to, things that were important that really needed to be put in front of my face, she would tag me in a communication app that we use. We use Slack for that.
Okay.
And it says, these are emails that you absolutely need to get in front of. So I'm not scrolling through the pages and pages and looking for that stuff.
Yep.
Those 6, 7, 8 emails are sitting there in front of me. So that was, it sounds so simple, but day over day, it's so beneficial.
Yeah, you can't miss the things. If Jess is listening over here, she's probably laughing because she knows that Drew has not read one of his emails in months because she handles all of it for me. But it's important stuff,
Yeah.
It does need to be handled.
I mean, what if Publishers Clearinghouse sent you an email 3 weeks ago that you won $3 million? You don't even know it.
I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know.
If that's a thing anymore.
So what other... outside of administrative type things, you mentioned some kind of like data entry things or list pulling. What else are people in the real estate world bringing on virtual assistants for?
I think the 3 most popular ones that we do that are not data driven are a transaction coordinator, lead manager, depending on how you take your leads, working through the CRM system, and cold callers.
Okay.
So we do have cold callers that are, I would call them 2-tiered. Cold callers that are appointment setters and cold callers that are closers. Okay. We do have some sales-minded cold callers as well. I'd say of the 3, personally, the most beneficial to us has been the transaction coordinator. There's so many moving parts, and a lot of that can be done 99% of the transaction coordination can be done virtually, whether it be the relationship through the transaction company or making sure communications with your sellers and or your buyers, they're keeping that glue together. And mine specifically, I mean, she's really good at it. So that's something we lean on VA for. Second to that, in my opinion, is the lead management piece. And maybe I should rephrase that as CRM, like managing your CRM.
Sure.
Making sure everything is filled out, the notes are in there and correctly put in by people, dates are in the right spots, all these little things that can get missed on a daily basis. That is their main focus.
Yep.
I say for anybody, whether you have them in-house or virtually, if you give somebody a job and that's their focus day in, day out, now you have something that you can monitor and you can coach and you can mentor that person to get excellent in that.
Yep.
Whereas it's hard to be excellent in anything that you're doing over multiple
2% of the time.
jobs. Yeah, right. So that has proven to us by putting her in that spot how beneficial that was. Because as we got busier, I can speak to, she started out as our lead manager. And in the CRM we were using at the time, I don't even remember which one we were using. But I mean, they all blend together at some point. We would have, let's say 5 to 10 deals in a pipeline. And then, those are supposed to move to certain spots as you do different things. But we're just leaving them there, leaving them there and saying, where are we at with this property? Now you don't have to think about that because it's done. Like when something happens, it's moving in real time because she knows that that's her job. That's what she has to do. And, she doesn't have the 10 other things that I do, or I get pulled aside with a question or there's a problem arising over here. So it's a great benefit to have.
I love that. So where are you sourcing talent from?
Location?
Yeah.
Mainly the Philippines.
Okay.
Actually, right now we're 100% Philippines.
Okay.
We have a great person in place to vet those VAs. We go through tons of applications. We're constantly hiring or at least having somebody on the bench ready for new clients. A lot of the things that we hear feedback from the clients is, tonality.
Sure. That's huge.
Personality, which is, it's not impossible to get a good personality. Sometimes you get that monotone, they're very, I call it very textbook. They're very, if you give them something to do, they're going to do it 100% of the time.
Yep.
But it's going to be very by the book and monotone.
Yep.
But there's personalities out there, and we fish them out. We look for references, past experience, things like that. We call on references and make sure that they're, showing up when they say they're showing up. We have ways of tracking that as well. But we want to make sure that they've had good past experiences so that we can put them into a good program.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. So walk me through it. I call you up and I'm like, hey, Chris, I really want to bring on somebody to plug into we'll just use cold calling as an example. I want to plug somebody into a cold calling role. What do we do?
The first thing I do is I send you a link to get on my calendar. I am the person that talks to the clients right now. So if you're going to book a time to talk about the company, it's going to be with me. We get on a Zoom call, and what I want to do is not just say, that's great, you want a cold caller. I want to get on, if you have the ability to share your screen, like I want to see your programs. Show me what they're going to be doing on a daily basis.
You want to understand the position.
Yeah, understand what they're going to be doing, because if you need help on the training side, we're happy to do that. Obviously, we don't know your systems like you do, but we have an idea of the process. This is the whole reason why we went into the real estate space. So we can have that support from our side.
Got it.
So we're going to hop on that Zoom call. It'll take as long as it needs. It doesn't have to take long. If you show me something pretty simple and are like, yeah, we have plenty of people that can do this, we're going to go ahead and find that person for you. And we probably have them waiting right now. And then we're going to have a second call. Once we decide that this is a good fit and you decide to join in and get yourself a VA, we'll go ahead and set up a call with one or multiple, and then let you have that face-to-face interview and make sure that's a person that clicks. You want to make sure you click with that person too. And then from there, when you decide that is a good person that would fit that position for you, we guide you in the training. And it's really, let's say, a la carte. A lot of it is pretty standard practices as it is, depending on what position you're putting them into. Mm-hmm. Cold calling is cold calling. It's what system are you using, right? Do you need them for sales? So whatever that looks like based on our original call, we'll mold that training when we bring them on with you until you're comfortable with just that day to day.
Got it. So, because that's where my mind went is I call you, or I have the idea that I would like to have a cold caller or somebody in a full-on acquisitions role within my company, but I'm hesitant. I'm skeptical to call you because, like we were talking about earlier, I haven't built out that process yet.
Yeah.
Should I call you anyway?
100%. Maybe I have. This is why I want to be knowledgeable in this arena. If you call me and you say, I really want somebody for the acquisitions process, that happens to be what I do in our company. Like that's my go-to. That's what I like to do. I love acquisitions. I love sales.
So I don't have to have scripts and all this stuff built out or anything. I can just call you and say, yo, I need to buy some deals, man.
Yeah.
So plug me in a person.
Yeah. So we have people that have the experience. We also have scripts in place. We would get your approval on that.
Sure.
I would send you our scripts and say, this is how we operate. And if you needed anything changed, then we would make the changes and make sure that they're comfortable with that. You're comfortable with it. So, I mean, that's not an issue. Yes. If you're even remotely interested, book a call. I mean, there's no monetary thing that takes place there. It's just a conversation.
Sweet.
And at the end of it, if you feel like that's not a good fit for you, then I just met somebody new.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely. I love that. It's like, I resisted against the VA thing for a long time, right? Like, because probably, I don't know, 5-6 years ago when I started going to different high-level mastermind events and everything, and I heard from everybody that has big teams, big companies, big organizations, a lot of them heavily relied, at least like on admin type stuff, on VAs. And I kind of resisted against that for a long time because of me personally. It's like, I like being in person. I like having somebody that I can just holler over to, like maybe Jess wants to strangle me half the time, but I like being able to be in close proximity to my people, to my team. But there's no question that you can find talent for significantly cheaper utilizing VAs as opposed to in-person employees.
Absolutely. And if you look at it this way too, well, any employee across the board is never an expense. It should never be an expense. It's always an investment. Because whatever money you're putting into that person, you're assuming you're getting something back out of it, whether it be time or money. So although they are cheaper, you still want quality.
Of course.
But some of those tasks, you don't have to pay $20-25 an hour for. Somebody's more than happy to make less than that to do those specific tasks. Mm-hmm. And maybe what that does is if it offsets enough in your business that you have that part of the machine running efficiently at a cheaper rate. Now, when you do need somebody in person or a little more expensive, or you have to invest into somebody that would dictate a little bit bigger of a salary, you have that money to do it. Because one, you've saved on this person, and maybe they've done enough to allow you to make more money to be able to pay that person later.
And you probably have systems and processes by that point because you went through the process of onboarding that person, right?
I will tell you from personal experience that this is not going to happen maybe even a portion of the time. But a lot of my systems and processes are built because of the VA I have in place. They are so systems and processes oriented that I put her into a mess when I first hired her. Like 4 or 5 years ago. It was a complete mess. I think it'd be better if we do this. I think that's very odd for VAs to give suggestions because I don't hear that a lot. They're very, what do you need? And I'll do that for you.
Yep.
She's a unicorn. I never want to lose her. She's a unicorn. But she will say, and she calls me sir. I've told her for 4 years, please stop calling me sir. And she will not stop calling me sir. Sir, I think if we did this way, it would be a lot easier. I said, is it going to be easier on you? And she says, yes. Make the change. And she's done that over and over again. And she basically knows our systems better than we do.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's fantastic, man. That's fantastic. So what do you see in the next year or two? Like, are you intending to kind of blow this up nationwide, or are you kind of just rolling it out like to other local investors and real estate professionals and everything? And
I don't know if I'm interested in the nationwide yet. I think I really want to align this with our wholesaling company, right? I tried the nationwide thing, and I really, something in my soul says it's better to be back this way. Like, I want to keep everything at home right now. Something like this, sure, you could scale that anywhere.
Yeah.
But I really want to put a focus in on this southeast region of Pennsylvania, because there's so many people we can serve here, whether it be investors or agents. I mean, there's thousands of them. So I would say for my short-term goal is to get some new clientele in, get some new VAs working for the clients, and base next year's decisions on the feedback that we're getting from the current clients.
I dig it. So I just thought of something else. So the reason that a lot of people end up going to search for a VA in the first place is because they want to save money, right? That's a large piece.
Sure. Yeah.
So why do I want to go to a company like you rather than trying to source a VA myself?
We try and make it so you don't have to create any extra jobs for yourself. Maybe we don't train them 100% because you have your own processes in place that you'd like to train them in, and that's great because we can work with you there. But as far as tracking their time, tracking their pay, tracking their KPIs, what they're doing, that's something that we set up in the beginning of their employment. So that's something that we're doing for you on the back end and providing that for you. So, I don't want you to take on a VA and then have to put another tab on your Excel spreadsheet and start tracking more KPIs for yourself. Let us do that, and we'll let you know how they're doing.
Yep.
You're going to see the results, right? If the results come in and your goal is, let's say it's a cold caller and you want to put another 3 or 4 contracts on the board for whatever period of time. Let's say it's a week. You want to put 4 contracts on the board per week, and you're getting those 4 contracts. That's great. You're measuring that success based on the results. We're measuring on the back end when you have your fall off and you say, I only got 1 contract this month. We're able to get the KPIs that we're tracking and say, well, we made 5,000 calls last week. We made 1,500 calls this week. Why?
Yep.
Because that shouldn't be put back on you. This is the service that you're paying for.
Yep.
You're going to say, why did this happen? Why did you only make 1,500? Maybe it was internet issues. Maybe it was I missed a day or two. And whatever the reasons that is, we're taking care of on the back end. And if there needs to be a change because of what's happening on a negative side, then that's something that we're going to jump in and take care of.
To summarize everything that you just said is, because I'm guilty of it myself many, many times, right? Is first and foremost, recruiting in and of itself is a full-time fucking job.
It is. I have somebody doing
it's
it
a full-time job. How many people have you brought on in the past, whether they're virtual assistants or in-person employees, they're just like, you have to kiss a lot of toads before you get like a decent one, right?
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm trying to alleviate some of the work or things that need to be done in my company. And all that I'm doing, to your point, is bringing on more responsibilities for myself. And now I'm going out there, I'm searching all the sites, I'm searching Freelancer, I'm searching Upwork, I'm having conversations, I'm trying to vet these people from different parts of the world. And then I'm probably going to hire a lot of people that I probably shouldn't have hired in the first place. You're taking all of that guesswork out.
Yeah. And think of it this way. You're right. It's a full-time job. We have somebody that vets on a weekly basis. I mean, maybe a daily basis.
It's easy to underestimate it.
Yeah,
Very
it
easy.
really is. Because, I mean, you could put, it's a very sought-after position. They want to work for companies over here. They do. And there's hundreds, maybe even thousands. We put a post out that we need. We have a source that we're very comfortable with now. But in the past, if we put out to multiple sources and asked, it's not out of the ordinary to get 600 responses in like 5 hours. And then you're weeding through all that. So weeding through it now, we're finding your next employee before you even know you need them. We have people that are vetted and they're waiting for jobs. We know if they want to work part-time, if they want to work full-time, which we have products for both. We also have projects, like a project section. So if you don't need a full-time employer, you don't need like a consistent part-time employee, and it's just a project that you need, we have people on the bench waiting to do projects.
Okay.
So that could be a social media project. That could be, in real estate, it's kind of hard not to do consistent stuff on the day-to-day.
Right.
But there are things you do. Maybe it's a social media thing you want to do for a flip you did or whatever that looks like.
Yep.
We have VAs for that. So, but we're sourcing them now.
Got
so
it.
that when somebody calls and says, I need this person, I need them for this many hours per week, and I need them to do this, we can now go into our folder and say, we have 3 of those that we can bring to your attention, and we can have some interviews.
Yeah. Okay. So if I came to you and I was like, yeah, Chris, I want to plug somebody into a cold calling role, but right now, dude, I really can only afford to pay someone 10 hours a week. Does that work?
It does. We have different tiers. We have different packages.
Okay.
The packages that we have is like it's not a long-term contract. We don't do long-term contracts. We do month to month. We want to make sure that you're happy. If you're happy, you're going to stay. If you're not, you're going to leave. Now that's fine. So we have the standard packages where I think it's 25 and 40 hours. So 25 is your part-time, 40 hours is your full-time. We also have a package that we would talk about this in the discovery call. If you only need the 10 hours, it's just a different rate. That's all.
Got it. And so also thinking about like, one of the big burdens of having in-person employees is like some of the stuff like the payroll taxes and having all the stuff set up for employment. So you're doing everything properly. You're also bypassing all that by going through a company like yours to source talent as well, right? Like there's nothing that I have to do. I'm not filling out, employment paperwork for an employee or anything like that. There's no W-2s. There's no...
Not at all.
Okay.
We have some paperwork we have to put in place for them, but we do that on our side. And it's nothing that would ever interact with your business, if you will.
Okay.
I think it really just ends up being an expense for you.
Okay.
Unless I'm missing something there on the legal side. I'm not an attorney. But there's no employment taxes or anything like that.
Okay. Sweet. I like that. So for you right now, like what other VA type of roles do you currently have in your company?
In our company, we have two of the three that I spoke of. We have the one that manages our CRM.
Okay.
And is basically acting as a lead manager. We have a transaction coordinator.
That's right.
And then we use a VA on our dispo side. So when we do our dispositions, I put a sales guy in that role.
You told me that before, yeah.
Yeah. They, I'd say between the transaction coordinator and themselves, we do a lot of our wholesales virtually. So when we get a contract, we still need to coordinate what that access looks like to the house, getting pictures, making sure the pictures get uploaded and into the marketing. Between the transaction coordinator and the admin for Dispo, they're doing that. They're making sure we get the pictures, get it uploaded, get the marketing piece in place, which for the most part is a template. They're just recreating the template for the new property. If there's pertinent information that needs to go into the marketing, in our CRM, there's a notes section that they take that from acquisitions, plug that in, and when the marketing is sent, they're tracking the effectiveness of it, like click-through rates and stuff like that, and creating that dashboard for us on the Dispo side so that we know if we're doing the right thing or not, marketing-wise. Then that's when our Dispo guy gets involved because the marketing's out. Now he's able to reach out to buyers, reach out to interested people, and now he's in a really just a full-time sales role, which is what I wanted to create out of that.
Got it.
He doesn't have to worry about any of the back-end marketing and stuff like that. We have that taken care of by the VA.
Got it.
So it's an option. And we've found that to be really effective because depending on what marketing you choose to do for Dispo, I mean, that can take a long time. Especially
certainly can.
You get something comes up and how did it take me an hour and a half to send that email out? Right?
Dude, it's wild. Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially when you start going down the rabbit hole of, well, I want to make sure that I'm hitting every buyer that could potentially be interested in this deal. And now maybe I'm sourcing data. Maybe I'm using Investor Lift. Maybe I'm using 3 other data sources, right? So there's a lot to it, man. There's a lot to it.
The goal, we measure success obviously on responses. And at the end of the day, whoever's going to buy that property, that's a success, right? You got somebody.
I measure it in sold deals, baby.
Well, that's what I mean. They're signing your contract.
There's the macro and the micro.
Yeah, so the micro on this is how many things can be done in the background that you don't have to worry about, but the influx of responses happen.
Yep.
So it's not just shooting an email out or shooting a text message out. It's also doing that and then combining that with maybe we choose to do a ringless voicemail or a texting if you do texting and scraping. And we scrape Zillow for every property.
Okay.
For current rents. Current rentals out there are great for landlords to buy properties. Just there's a number of things that we do. I think there's like 7 or 8 different things that we pull buyers from or potential buyers.
Yep.
And that's being done in the background by the admin and fed to the Dispo guy.
I love it.
And when that's done on a property, if there's time, they reach out to those cold leads. And if they turn into a yes or I'd be interested, that gets filtered to my dispo guy. So I want them constantly talking to people that are at least interested.
Yep.
And that's what happens there.
I love it. I like to look at dispo as there's the push and the pull method, right? And the push is everything that you're explaining, pulling the data and actively seeking out buyers and saying, hey, Chris, I know that you've bought other deals like this before. Actually, a very interesting push strategy. I just started this one company. I forget their name, but I started getting postcards from them. I guess they're out of state and they're trying to sell deals locally. I can't understand that one because the cost associated with it doesn't seem like it would make sense, but very interesting. It's still a part of that push strategy to try to move your deals. And then pull, I like to look at is, okay, well, just having a place where you post your properties, whether it's my website or an investor lift, or if you list on the MLS, right? That's kind of more of a pull strategy. You're not actively seeking out the buyers. You're putting it in a place, and that deal itself is pulling the buyers towards it. Right. You know, and you got to do both.
And you brought that up. I did mention an investor lift before, but part of their process is putting it on the Revamp AI website.
Getting better.
You paid for that spot, and I forgot to bring it up.
Getting better every day, baby. Yeah, but like, are you listing your wholesale deals on the MLS right now? I feel like we talked about that before.
Yeah, locally we are.
Locally.
The ones in Pennsylvania.
Okay, gotcha.
We have taken on some novations out of state, and those are the ones we list. We haven't consistently listed on the MLS out of state.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it was interesting. Like when we started listing most of our inventory on the MLS, and we still don't with everything, you know, but when we first started doing it, it's like we only listed the properties that were kind of more like a novation, but we were still trying to find a cash buyer for them, right?
Yeah.
But they were mostly livable properties, right? But through that, we kind of graduated to, dude, we're even listing like shithole properties on there and everything. And we realized that more times than not, I'd say 75% of the time, we ended up selling properties quicker and easier on the MLS than even we did with our massive push method through our own efforts and strategies and everything. But not always, right? 25% of the time, it's like, shit, there's been deals where we bought off the MLS and then reassigned it for more than it was listed for on the MLS. You know, so that exists too. That's why I think you have to have a two-pronged approach and try to attack it from every angle, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to bring in as much as you can on a deal.
That's the thing. Well, if you have anything to sell, in our case, it's a house or a contract. But if you have anything to sell, like if you want to sell something out of your garage and you put it on the marketplace, you want everybody in the world to see this thing. So that's the goal. You put a property out there, you want the most people to see your property that can possibly look at it.
Yep.
So why not tap into that source? Because the MLS is always going to be the biggest list out there. I mean, you can.
The irony is, though, a lot of times real flippers, landlords simply don't look there, so they miss things because I can't get a deal there. Everybody else has access. I'd have too much competition, and that results in being able to find deals because not everybody's there looking, you know?
Well, that's true too, yeah.
So it's interesting.
And the thing is, you know, we don't always, you know, I would say it's not even the biggest portion of our deals are going to be that hoarder house with the hole in the roof. It's going to be somewhat of a substantial property, right? And if it's that, you can still get offers on the MLS from the non-flipper.
Yep.
And that happens in some cases. So you at least want to get it in front of people's eyes.
Yep.
Because you never know who's shopping and what they're looking for. It's not always the beautiful house for the family to live into. Maybe it's a weekend project. And you know, that's been beneficial to us, just letting it sit out there and like why limit the places we can put it when we can put it everywhere.
Yep.
And then let it all come back to us.
Yep.
And that's been great.
So let me ask you some of the recent legislation against wholesaling that all kind of goes into effect in coming months. What are you doing, if anything, to kind of prepare for that?
Well, we sat with one of the agents we use for novations in the state, and we kind of briefly went over what the legislation looks like now. I don't know if it's too late to make amendments and things like that, but I don't know if that's 100% of what's going to roll out when it finally does. But one of the things is, and I hate to even say it out loud, but considering getting my license, right? Because that's part of that legislation is, as I understand it, is somebody on the team has to be licensed of where you're doing business, right? And we don't currently have that right now. So I fought it for 7 years.
Yep. Hey, look, I'm in the same boat, brother. Same boat, you know? And so I don't know. I haven't talked to anybody about the legality of the novation transaction specifically, because I read the whole bill because it's not long.
Yeah.
So I was able to hold my attention through it. It's like one page, basically. It specifically speaks to assignment as the verbiage that it uses, but it's basically saying an assignment style transaction. A novation is an assignment style transaction. So I think this is going to fall under that umbrella that you do have to be licensed in order to do it.
I think, so of the categories that were brought into that law, like you said, there's not a lot of things to read through that. I think the things that stood out to me specifically was the licensing, for one, and the I'm going to murder this, but the 30-day clause, I think it was.
That's my biggest beef, man.
Right.
That's the biggest bullshit out of it. It's
Other
terrible.
than that, honestly, it doesn't affect us too much because a lot of it comes down to transparency.
That 30-day thing, you know, and I've had so many people say to me, which is ironic because the wholesale industry in its entirety gets a bad rap for being unethical, dishonest, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Everything that we've ever built with our sales teams, our sales process, like everything that we've ever done is as transparent as we can possibly be. You know, like people lie about like why they're showing a property to investors, like every little piece along the way. We've never done that. You know, it's like we try to be as transparent as humanly possible. So when I bring up my beef, my concern with this 30-day, for clarity, like that's the way that it reads is you have to be licensed to put a property under contract and then resell it, whether you wholesale it or do any of these other style of transactions. But also your seller has 30 days to cancel that agreement with you for any reason. So the biggest issue with that is, okay, we have a conversation and you say, Drew, I will sell you my house for $100,000. We sign an agreement. Wonderful.
Right.
Now, as an investor, as a wholesale company, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that contract and I'm going to go market it for $120,000, let's say. And we're doing that quickly, right? Speed matters.
Yeah.
Because in all of our transactions, not all, but most, speed matters to the seller, right? So within a day, 2 days, we're marketing that deal out. Now, everybody that sees that deal knows that the seller has 30 days to cancel this deal with Drew.
Yeah.
You know? So they're just going to go right to the seller and say, hey, whatever that dude's offering you, I'll pay you $5,000 more.
Yeah.
You know? And the rebuttal that I'm hearing from so many people is, oh, well, that's not going to happen if you're just honest and transparent with your sellers. Yes, it will. I guarantee you it will.
Well, because the ability's there.
That's right.
Right. And to your point early on in the podcast, you were mentioning about people nickel and diming your offers. So if somebody did come along with even $1,000 more, they may jump ship.
Yep.
My question being, they're not considering that a binding contract, right, until that 31st day.
Yep.
But a contract, even as we have it now, comes with terms. Can that not be a term that's negotiated away then from that? Let's say, look, we're going to go ahead and forfeit that clause.
The way that reads, no, but
then that's bullshit.
I don't know. It remains to be seen. I mean, for me right now, the way I'm proceeding is not getting any sort of licensing. And we have people on the team that are licensed anyway, so we could go good. That angle. Yeah. But I don't want to have to deal with the whole 30-day right to cancel. So we'll put things under contract and either we'll close them and then resell on the market after, or we'll double close them. Whatever. That's fine. Yeah. We'll spend the money. We'll pay, to do the double close.
So to your point here, right, you say assigning, what was the terminology of that? If you show any kind of assigning?
The way that it reads is kind of like any sort of assignable contract is what is really under scrutiny here.
So if you get rid of the
no, I'm sorry. It said wholesale style transactions.
Wholesale style.
Yeah, I think that's what it said.
So if you get rid of the and/or signs in your contract, you're good as long as you plan to close on that contract.
But you have to close on it.
Right.
You have to close on it, which can mean double closing for right now. I know that some other states, I don't know the ins and outs of everything, but some other states have kind of outlawed double closing as well, which I also think is bullshit. Like, why?
Yeah.
You're just creating issues for no reason. And it's always done under the guise of consumer protection and protecting the equity of that homeowner. But that's not what ends up happening in almost any of the cases.
Well, isn't this the same mess they're causing on the realtor, on the
NAR thing?
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's usually...
It doesn't help anybody except for the attorneys.
Right. I say everything's, in my mind, everything is usually a money grab.
Yep.
But where's the money grab here? Like, what is the purpose of this? Who are we helping, and who's benefiting from this? I don't think there's an answer for that right now.
Well, you're never really going to get an answer, but I think there's no question that the NAR also has a target on the wholesale industry as a whole, because we are taking market share away from agents. I know plenty of agents just have that mentality even on a small scale level, right? It's, well, if you are wholesaling or even you're doing your own marketing, not with the intention to wholesale, but to buy your own flips, to buy your own rentals, you're taking market share away from me because that's what I do. I'm an agent. You're taking market share away. And it's totally not that. We know very well that it's like retail style transactions versus what we do are literally a universe apart. It's not the same in almost any way, shape, or form. It's very different.
Well, I'm sure we've both had both sides of that conversation. You run into realtors that do look at it that way, and the other way as well. But some of those realtors have turned just based on education. You get in conversation. We've made offers to realtors that had clients that they brought to us. The referrals. You get referrals. We got referrals, and they get upset. Well, in the past they got upset at the offers that we gave because they think that we're taking advantage. That's where that verbiage just gets ingrained in people's heads.
Yep.
When we know that's not the case. So a couple of times I've had conversations with realtors and really just laid out how we do what we do and why we do what we do and how this benefits both of us, right?
Yep.
Doesn't mean you have to be cut out in 100% of these cases. Sometimes you can be part of it.
Yep.
And that has proven beneficial in some cases, not all. And it's a shame. Some people are going to be stuck in that lane, but that's okay.
Yep. At the end of the day, change is coming, but change is always inevitable in anything, right? So, my crystal ball is broke. I don't know where we're going to be a year from now as far as legislation and what's legal and what has to be done. But what I do know is there's always going to be distressed sellers. There's always going to be some form of a middleman, whether it be a wholesaler or an agent, because maybe the wholesalers need to become agents, whatever. And there's always going to be the need to restore crappy properties. Yeah. Right? Like there's always going to be the industry. It's just the landscape of what it looks like and how everything is done is going to change.
Can I cause some friction?
Absolutely.
I'd say you can agree with me or not that given both arenas, the traditional realtor versus the wholesale as we see the industry, I feel like we're scrappier. So if we can be louder and maybe make that change quicker.
Absolutely. Yep.
Maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Look, I have friends, plenty of friends that are agents, right? And plenty of friends that are solopreneur wholesalers and plenty of guys that own big wholesale operations as well, right? Yeah. And the friendly joke is usually, dude, you do not want us coming into the retail world because, man, we will grind our asses off. And but we have agents all the time. She may laugh at this one behind me. Recently, we had a transaction, excuse me, a wholesale deal that there was a buyer's agent representing the buyer. And, we're handling everything. It was a sticky, hairy deal, some title stuff, some issues, whatever. But we were handling all of it. Like, we were doing everything. And one of the communications with the buyer's agent, she was borderline in tears and frustration because she's like, oh, I never have to work this hard on a deal. Usually I just line everything up and fill out the paperwork and we go to settlement. And it's just like, it was so comical to us because it's like, this is a normal deal for us. It's like,
right.
by the way, you're not doing any of the work, any of the legwork, any of the hard stuff. We're handling all of it. We're basically just keeping you in the loop, you know?
Yeah.
We're not asking for any action items from you.
To the point before you go on is if you had a contract that we assigned today and you get a call next week from the title company and says we're clear to close tomorrow, that's when you feel like there's something wrong. What do you mean there's no problem?
That's right. Yeah. This is weird, man. This is weird. Seriously, I can tell you out of hundreds of transactions, that's happened to me like 4 times. It's so rare. But it's cool when it does. I think absolutely. I'm due. I think I'm due for another.
This year, right?
Yeah, that would be cool. You know, just a seamless transaction. Everything goes according to plan.
Hey, we can dream.
Yeah, we can definitely dream. I saw somebody recently complaining about like a flip that they were doing on social media and basically saying how everything was kind of going wrong and everything. And I just kind of laughed to myself because I was like, that's every deal I've ever done. What do you mean? That is what we do. Again, like your shirt, conquer every obstacle. If there were no obstacles, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't exist. Yeah. Everything I do is usually messy. Right. There's usually almost everything that can go wrong does.
But there's lessons there. This is how
Lots
you've
of
grown.
Lessons. That's right.
You grow into what you are based on your fails.
That's right. That's right. So anything else you would like to share? Anything else you would like to plug on the pod here?
Plug? I don't think so. I really appreciate you allowing me to talk about the new company. It's called Eagle Blue. And I'll give you the information that you can put
we'll
in
have to drop a link.
Notes.
Yep.
And I would say that, anybody that sees this and would at least like to have a conversation and get on the Calendly for that, I'll go ahead and set up a code for you. We'll just make it easy. We'll call it Revamp.
Perfect.
If they book a call with Revamp, we'll go ahead and waive the onboarding fee.
I love it. That's fantastic. I love it, man. Well, Chris, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, man. I'm glad we got to come in and do round 2.
Absolutely.
This is great. Round 3, I can't wait to see what's in store in the coming months.
Well, round 3 might have to be post legislation.
Well, it probably will be. It's crazy. I mean, we're coming up on November, man. It's like the last few months. Based on when they rolled that out, it's probably February. I think it's
or March?
January, right?
Is it January?
I think it's supposed to be late January. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Right around the corner.
That's it. So February, if we do a podcast and I roll up in a bathrobe and slippers, then something went wrong.
Or something went incredibly right, man. Yeah, I don't know.
That is true.
I don't know. Chris, thanks for coming on, brother. Appreciate
you.
Boom.